And we are recording on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024 at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Zoom, as always, giving troubles and problems, but as always, it really is. It's what the and everybody, the Mr. Ian Burlingame, you've been here twice before. You can go to the description, find a link to your YouTube, find a link to your Twitter. Just kind of shoot the shit about this, that, and the other thing. That's like every other episode. But yeah, we were just talking beforehand about I was telling you, like Zoom kind of does have an attitude, and I always thought that was interesting. Is if you'd ever read the reports, there's a book called Sled Driver by I think Shul Shul, who's a pilot of the S-471 Blackbird, and he said they each had their own distinct personality, and like these aren't stupid. These aren't guys aren't stoners in college. These are pilots for a Mach 3 spy plane that flies in space that doesn't technically exist. Like they're not woo-woo guys. And they'd openly said they all have their own attitudes. Like they would use certain ones of them in different parts of the world because they're like, she loves like Japan, or be like this girl loves in Northern Africa. And it's very odd, but they all swore by it. Like as much as I would say, like, you know, no, no, don't use this microphone, don't use that one. They said it as a matter of, I mean, no different than make sure it's gassed up and make sure that your helmet where they just said like that one has an attitude. And I don't know what that is, but I've I've felt it with each studio I've been in. They all have their own. I really believe it. They all have their. It's the same fucking equipment. I've been using this microphone since episode I think 290. They all have. It's the same shit. They all have like a weird. There's some meta system of systems thing going on that manifests itself as a personality. But yeah, so I don't really know where to go with that. But that's yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing.
I've been in tech since the mid 80s, early mid
Yeah.
80s, and we've um, we've packed so much shit into such a small form factor that there's just a whole lot of things that conflict with a whole lot of things, and you got to get it all set up just right, and then don't mess with it.
Yeah. Um, let's let's jump right into when you text me last
Yep.
night about column. Where is it? Ask yourself, yeah, because my one of my best friends, Drew Bob, is Jewish. We call him Jew Bob. He and I play video games every night, and he's always like, "Yeah, the best way." He's like, "The best way is to fucking sacrifice." He always says, "I'm like," we always fuck with him. We're like, whenever something happens, we're like, Drew Bob, call Netanyahu. Why'd the Jews do this? And he's always like, "I'll pull out my beeper," you know. But he says he's like, worse than a goyim is the lower tier Jews like me. He's like, because you'll be killed as collateral. He goes, I'll be killed as a sacrifice intentionally to make it look worse. So he's like, so it's actually better to be a goyim. And but there is something to that. And I would imagine whoever's watching, like, oh, it's a Hitler show. No, this show has always been I explore. I've had on Charlie Duke, who's the youngest man ever to walk on the moon. I've also had on a guy that a flat Earth episode who says the moon doesn't exist. Like this show has always just been an exploration of anything, and people who don't have enough brain cells to understand that it's fun to entertain ideas. I'm sorry, you're retarded and you shouldn't watch. But so there is something to that, right? To sacrifice your own people as a form, because it is, let's just say you're a psychopath playing a video game. Let's say Earth isn't real, it's just a video game. That's not a bad tactical move to do like a Holocaust and then be like, no one will ever be able to pin anything. No one will ever say anything to Tommy because his people went through it, right? I'm not saying that's what happened, but as an idea, as like a tactic, it's not a half bad tactic at all. So I'm sure we've already scared off half the people listening, but yeah, take it away, man. Where are we going with it? You said Dave Collum had it.
Well, jump right into
The
to the
fucking Jews.
to the sons and daughters of Abraham.
Yeah.
So very few people know this, but I had to study Hebrew and the Torah, had to be able to read the Torah and the Talmud and all that when I was a kid, because my mother, being the unique lady she was, wanted to go live in a kibbutz, right? In the early 70s, coming out of San Francisco and a life of comfort. Let's go work in a kibbutz. And so, you had to be able to read and write the language, and, there was some requirements, and we were living I want to say in about 10 days. And then the little thing called the Yom Kippur War broke out in 1973 on October 7th, 1973.
That was October 7th.
I think it was, yeah,
I'll look it up.
pretty sure 7th or 10th or somewhere right in that window there. Um, I may have that mistaken, but I think it was October 7th. I think that was the day. I was
October
pretty young.
6th. October 6th.
6th. There you go. Yeah, yeah,
Close,
yeah.
close enough.
Yeah. So, they closed the borders for a couple of years and didn't allow immigration to the kibbutz. And by that time, my mother had bought some land up in the Canadian border and started a hippie commune. Well, that was an interesting experience. I'm not a big fan of hippies. In fact, I smell patchouli oil now and I get violent.
Ugh.
Um,
I think it's an experience yeah, no, I went from fucking straight edge pre-med guy to a couple of years of hippie psychedelic use and now back to straight edge. And I'll tell you, being straight edge and sober is actually so much more freeing and loving than
yeah,
being free loving
yeah.
and peaceful. It's if
Coming
you have to
back
tell people
and
you're peaceful and lovely, you're not.
yeah, you're not.
No,
No,
if you
they're
have to
some of
say
the
peace and
worst,
love, man, no.
worst human beings I ever met in my
That's the
life.
worst time of my life.
Oh my God.
Granted, it was right after my brother took his life, so I wasn't exactly in a
Oh,
good spot, but still, no,
yeah.
man, that was like the most mean, vicious,
Yes. Yeah.
irresponsible,
Passive
resentful,
aggressive
just
violence.
and then I'd always be like, but it's peace and love, and I'd be like, what the fuck? And
Yeah.
now I'm a straight sober,
Yeah.
fucking every morning, go to the gym, pray,
Yeah.
pray,
Yeah.
think about, making, talk to God, help me be a better man, and try to
Yeah.
do. And I would say now I'm so much nicer and so much more loving, but I don't
Yes.
wrap it up in tie
Honest.
dye. Instead, I look like the most unfun person. I'm a fucking white guy with blue eyes in front of an American flag with a crucifix. Like I look like not a fun guy.
You are an Irishman.
I'm so much
You're
more fun to be around now than I was as a hippie. Sorry, I'll shut up. But yeah,
no, 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 no. So, so we had similar experience, mine in the 87. But, I was on the path as a young kid to go grow up in Israel.
yeah,
Um, and then Yom Kippur War. And so that didn't happen. But, I had studied the Talmud. My mother had, read it to us. Um, and there was something that didn't make sense to me, and I went to Jesuit schools and some Seventh-day Adventist schools and private schools when I was younger. Um, One of the things that didn't make sense to me for decades was it's a 6-month walk from Egypt to the Promised Land. Why did it take 40 years? Right? It's like, why did it take 40 years? Like, they're not very good. They couldn't celestial navigate that bad.
even if you had no navigation, it wouldn't take 40 years to try
Oh,
all
hell
that shit.
no. No,
You'd
you get with a
Roomba that shit.
caravan, with caravans were going in and out of that
Yeah.
crescent there, right? So why did it take 40 years? And, so I thought about that for a long time, decades. And the only thing I could come to was it takes time to break the slave mind, the slave of comfort, right? Because when we look back at the Jew, and I'm no scholar on this, right? So I'm sure people are going to jump in here and tell me where I'm wrong, but a lot of the slaves lived in comfort, right? The same with the Roman slaves and the Greek slaves, right? A lot of them lived in comfort. They were administrators. They had high ranking positions. You're going to go into a part of a narrow crescent of land in the world where it's nonstop conflict. You can't go there with a bunch of slaves that aren't ready to fight. And you can't go there with slave beliefs and slave ideas, the slave mind, right? You have to go there fully, in the Scottish Irish kind of way, more in the Scottish way. You've got to go there, or Northern Irish. In Scottish, you got to go there freedom, and willing to frickin' be drawn and quartered. Like, yeah,
Angry, guilt, guilty to the Lord, and willing to
right?
kill everything.
Humble, but strong as hell,
The
right?
Lord wants us to suffer. Like,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
no,
Yeah. And anybody who says that thou shalt not kill, Jesus Christ, forgive me, dude. There's a whole lot of genocides in the Bible.
oh yeah. Then
Whole lot.
my buddy Joe Dolio on Twitter, that tactical wisdom.
Yeah. I
He
know
always says
Joel. Yeah.
he goes, God said that thou shalt not murder.
Murder. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah.
Somebody comes in
And
here. Oh, no.
evidently, if you're a Canaanite or one of these other peoples, genocide isn't murder.
Yeah, that's yeah.
It's okay. So I thought that okay, this has to be what was going on. They were going to go into the Holy Land. They had to toughen the fuck up, and
Hmm.
they had to cut out the wheat and the chaff, right? Because they had to go in there knowing that they were going to have a mini generation fight. So I thought about that. I was in China years ago. It'd been late 2000s before I went back into the army, into special forces. And I had a very old, in his mid late 80s at the time, very, very ludicrously successful Jewish man with me, who I won't mention his name. He's since passed away at almost 100 years of age. Um, and he and I we were helping the Chinese Ministry of Science and Technology work out their intellectual property laws and principles and et cetera, along with some other people. And we were between events in the back of the car. And I don't know how the conversation came up. This is like 2007, I think, 2006, 2007. And I don't remember how the conversation came up, but it came up where I was able to ask him this question. And his name's Bob. I'll say Bob, right? Was. And he said, "Well, what do you think? Why do you think it took?" And I said this to him, right? I said, "Well, I think they needed to break the slave mind, and they knew they were going into a generational fight, and they needed to be tough and strong. And wandering in the hardships of the desert for 40 years would toughen you the fuck up, right? It would make you lean and efficient, cut away luxury beliefs, right? All this kind of, and it would get you prepared to go into a fight." And he leaned back in the car, in the back of the car, and because we are being chauffeured around and probably by an agent of the Chinese government, who knows?
Most likely.
He was a nice guy. And he had a smile on his face, because I'm pure goyim. I got no Jewish ancestry in me at all. And he said, "Very good." And he said, "Okay." And he said, "All right, well, let me ask you a question. What about the Holocaust?" And it was my turn to lean. And it's, that movie Friday where Ice-T, or is it Ice-T, Ice Cube, and the other guy are like, "Damn."
Oh yeah, yeah. They
Right? I think it's Friday, where that comes from. But it was like, boom, hit me in the face. It's like, well, yeah, you're getting ready to go back to the Holy Land. Several thousand years later, you're
yeah,
gonna be engaged in a generational conflict. You you don't have 40 years to walk because there's no desert between Germany and
yeah.
Europe and the Holy Land, except for a little sliver in Turkey or in Syria. You're gonna have to go fight. You're gonna get there by sea anyways, because there's no way, the mass migration of Jews by land was gonna happen. So how do you do the 40 years in the desert in a few years?
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
not saying that's the case,
no,
but if you
no,
look
no.
at the
It's
bankers, you look at the financiers, you look at, right, you look at the British in particular and what they were doing and the French, right? Sykes-Picot, all of that. If you look at the act, uh, if you look closely, you really wonder what was the Holocaust. And this is not to give the Germans a pass, and it's not to give freaking Hitler a pass. And
like
no,
like
they
I
need to
said at
be
the
over a
beginning of this
slow,
show. Like I
right? They need
said,
to be over a slow roast pit in fucking hell,
yeah.
right?
No, like I said at the beginning of the show, this podcast is, if nothing, it's entertainment of ideas. People that can't, people that immediately go, "Well, you're fucking." Those are stupid people who can't. It's like if I said, "Hey, what would it be like to, what would it be like to fuck a tree?" I'd be like, "What?" Yeah, I'd imagine it would hurt.
Some
I would imagine it would hurt. I'd get splinters. I'm not gonna do it, but you can entertain it. It requires a mind to be able to entertain shit you don't believe in. So.
well,
Don't apologize
there's
to
these
anybody. Don't apologize to anybody listening. People that can't.
no, 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 no. And again,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just this is a conversation I had with a ludicrously successful Jewish man.
yeah, no, it's not a bad
Um,
idea. It's not at all a bad. I mean, it's pure evil, but in terms of tactically, psychopath
it
detachment,
sounds,
man,
it sounds.
you would run the fucking world.
Tactically, it is the
It's
sound
brilliant.
thing to do. Now,
Yeah.
here's the question, right? Because this is the question, because that was 2000s, and then I went into special forces and took another path, and but then I, you know, crossed paths with these people from the whole Operation Maxwell Epstein at different times in different capacities, particularly when I was in the tech and in the finance world, and then later in the academic world. Um, what was that operation? What was it setting up? Because that wasn't, that was an operation, and it's
Hmm.
not just an operation to get blackmail. You don't do that level of sophistication and broad spectrum operation unless you're putting in place something very serious. Very.
We'll go into that. You said not just blackmail.
So, okay. Blackmail only works on people who don't have control of their appetites.
Okay.
And while there's a lot of those, and you can squirrel them away in the positions of influence, informational management, et cetera, there's not enough of them for a real substantive major global operation.
Yeah.
So there are other ways, you know, to groom people into the cause and the purpose, no, what we call witting or unwitting in special operations on the intel side, the human side. Um, there are other ways to own and control people. Some people you're not going to get it to the Diddy parties, right? They have
They,
control of
they
their
won't.
physical
Yeah.
sexual appetites,
They won't invite
but,
me.
but maybe they want wealth, or maybe they want fame,
Yeah.
or maybe they want to continue their academic scientific research and they want it funded. Maybe they want to get published so they have the recognition, right? Or maybe they want a position, they want a judgeship. They want to be a DA in some county, right? There's all of, or they want to be the head of some bank somewhere, so there's all of these other ways in which you can gain influence over people, wittingly or unwittingly. At some point, it has to be wittingly because they need to be supporting the operation. So you're kind of filtering out there people who are cognitively manipulatable or are morally flexible enough that they'll look the other way to your evil shit as long as you support what they're doing. At some point, like the Godfather, right? One day I'm going to come and I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid that day ever come,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So blackmail is only one part of it. The ones that are, as the conversation you were having with Dave and Tom and the other gentleman, forgive me, I
Jim.
can't remember his name the other day.
Jim.
Um, there are certain key players though that you have to have that really dark blackmail on because they are so critical in decision making committees, funding lines, operational lines, um, ruling from the bench, et cetera, that you have to have total freaking control of them. But Operation Maxwell Epstein went way beyond blackmail, way beyond. It went to funding research in certain things, certain professors, certain, you know, PhD students, certain tech startup companies, all of these supporting cast of characters. But what were they putting in place? What were they looking to do? Well, what have we been doing since, 2014? We've been trying to drive the world to world war.
Hmm.
That's why they wanted Clinton in. It
Hmm.
delayed them by 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're, yeah, you have to, and I always say this is, you know, Hitler came into power in 33, war ended in September 45. It's 12 years.
Correct.
The real fighting was about 5 years.
Yeah.
So by that definition, then there's a 7 year setup, excluding Versailles, just 7 years.
Yeah.
Seven
Yeah.
years
It can
ago
get
was
delayed.
well,
Yeah, it
seven
can
years
get
ago was
delayed.
2017. We could very well
Yeah.
be in the it feels like forever. COVID was
Yeah.
eternity ago. We're it's been 7 years since 2017. I would say that World War III started in like 2020 with COVID. By that definition, we're still 3 years away from it even getting hot. Just as an example. I'm not saying that's what
Yeah,
it,
no, no, no. Totally, totally
just
and
to, but to
absolutely
put it in
true.
people's minds. Because it's when you look back in history, it's very easy to look at two dates and then just, yeah, 33 to 45. That's 12 years. That's a long fucking time.
Yeah. But it actually started in the 20s,
Well,
in the
yeah, obviously,
1920s,
yeah, when, yeah,
right? And World
Weimar
War
and
One is the same. Everybody looks at Archduke Ferdinand.
yeah,
That was a singular
that
event. If everything hadn't been put in place and conditioned and ready to go and
and
stockpiled, et cetera, for
goes
almost a decade plus
goes back
before.
to Bismarck and the Schlieffen plan. No, no, I know that. Yeah, in the
Yeah,
20s,
yeah,
Wall Street funded Germany and E.H.
yeah,
Harriman and Brown Brothers and yeah, I know.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the Dulles brothers
yeah,
and yeah, who laundered it all back.
yeah.
So
But yeah, so the it's bigger than blackmail. Back to 2014, trying to go into World War III. That's what they're trying to set up.
yeah, so what was the operation? And the thing that's been rattling around in my mind, since that conversation with Bob in the back seat of the Audi A8 in Beijing, 2006, 2007, is a people that are willing to do that to that large a number of their own. What would they be willing to do as a people to sustain? And by the way, just to sustain their people, not to take over the world. I'm not saying all of that, right? But if a people, and it's in the Bible, right? It's in the Judeo-Christian Islamic, belief system that this happened. What would they be willing to do to sustain themselves? And oh, by the way, and
Anything.
we're goyim.
Yeah.
And in the Bible, and again, I'm not saying that Jews are going for genocide or any of that. I don't know, and I don't know enough about what's going on in Gaza, and I don't have enough eyes on and friends with eyes on to know exactly what's happening there. I know all kinds of claims are being made about this and that, and maybe they're true, maybe they're not, right? But a people. Now, I ask this as somebody who's, first generation American, Brit. It's not like we haven't done some fucking crazy, horrible fucking You know what I mean? Like people look and go, okay, Europeans, etc. Motherfucker, we're the only ones to take the world to war 4 times. Don't forget the 1700s and 1800s when we were at World War, right?
George Carlin. When's the last time we bombed white people? Germans. Why? They said they wanted to take over the world. Bullshit. That's our fucking job.
Right? Right? Oh, and never mind that, the British royal family has been Germans since the 1700s. In fact, really, since 1685 when they brought that guy William over.
I was gonna say, sorry to keep interrupting you.
Yeah, no, no, no.
Clay Martin. I know you know Clay. My favorite my favorite tweet of all time is somebody saying like, "Would you really shoot a stranger in your house over property?" And Clay said, "I've shot strangers in their houses, so yes."
And took nothing. And took nothing.
What?
And took nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no. He goes, "I've shot strangers in their own houses, so yeah, I'll shoot them in."
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, what would the people do?
Yeah. Well, what do people do? So,
Do
so
anything.
again, this isn't about Jewish people, right? They're doing what they got to do, and I don't know, maybe right. But if you look at who took the world to war twice in the last century alone, the entire world to war, which led to nuclear weapons being deployed on the Japanese, all of that driven by the Brits, by the way, and the British colonies that hadn't yet broken away, even though they called themselves the United States of America. Okay, well, who's been behind the whole thing in the Ukraine? Who's been feeding that war? Oh, by the way, what are they doing now? They're going to take what, 3 billion out of the national health in healthcare system in Britain. They're going to give that to Ukraine now. They just came up with another $3 billion for you. Britain did. Britain's way beyond bankrupt. And it just came up with another 3 billion, and we suspect it on the 30th, when the new budget thing comes out, that 3 billion is going to come out of the national healthcare system. So what would the Brits be willing to do, as we've demonstrated over the last 400-ish, since the fucking Tudors? What would the Brits be willing to do? We've taken the world to war more than once, more than twice, right? People don't forget here in America that the American Revolution, which was anything but, it was a civil war. You never gained independence, but the American Revolution happened in a world war. England and its allies were at war with France and Spain everywhere in the world that there were colonies on the seas, etc. And then we had Napoleonic era, another world war,
Hmm.
right? And then of course World War One, World War Two, and then there was always conflict in the colonies, etc. The Boer Wars and all kinds of stuff everywhere, right? Brits do war. It's what we do. We are we have been Scandinavian Vikings since 1066. So as the empire collapses, because of demographics more than anything else, but as the empire collapses, what would we be willing to do? In the vein of being Christians who know the story of the Jews and the Exodus from Egypt, what would we do? But how far would we be willing to go to, how many of ours and the world would we kill to ensure that the empire continues?
Everyone.
Pretty much.
You don't want to go that far, but I think we would.
Why are these
Hmm.
guys actually building? Why are Zuckerberg and all these guys, and why do these people have all these fucking nuclear bunkers all over the fucking place?
Hmm. Yeah. It might also just be just to play devil's advocate. There's one of my favorite books ever, Raven Rock by Garrett Graff. It's about the entire continuity of government system from like the makeshift bunkers from FDR up through present day. Those aren't new. No, granted, those are government military funded. I get that, but it might just be just playing devil's advocate. I don't really believe this. It might just be it's like the next level of wealth. There was probably the first wealthy dude who had a private plane, and then it's private 747, and then it's private island, and then it does kind of continually
Yeah,
go
no,
up.
no,
It could just it's a new billionaire thing, right, to go to space. So just playing devil's advocate,
their vanity. No, 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 no. I'm
yeah,
totally with you.
it
It's
might
like that a
not,
lot of these wealthy guys with their security teams, and they got six
yeah,
Navy SEALs or
it it
former, and
it
it's
might not.
like,
It might just
yeah,
be that the new next step is to ball out of control. You can't just have a penthouse in Manhattan and a place in Monaco, but it's also I got a bunker and my own water reservoir in Montana. I'm not now. I
totally
don't
true.
believe that.
Yeah,
I think they're building it because something's coming, but just to play devil's
yeah,
advocate. Yeah,
yeah. No, 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 no. So that is totally there is a vanity aspect to it,
absolutely.
right? Uh, like I look at so many of these people's security teams, and it's like you're not safe at all. You're going to maybe survive a gunfight, not a real prolonged or intense gunfight. So you're going to be able to maybe stop the one-off guy or maybe some small thing, but there's a concerted effort to take you out. You're not safe at all. Your
Well,
security doesn't secure you at
and
all.
to put it into perspective, was even Eisenhower said, "I won't survive the first strike. I'm the A team. We already have a B team and C team in a mountain. So the fucking president knows that he's not going to survive. Dog, you're not surviving. You know?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no.
Plus, as Clay and I both say, all you're doing is stockpiling, right? You're
Yeah.
stockpiling supplies for us and our family.
Yeah, no, it's good mental. It might feel good to mentally
Yeah,
go. I have like
yeah.
800,000 freeze dried casseroles, but I mean,
The
but yeah,
problem,
yeah,
sorry, the problem I have with this thinking though is that fortress thinking, fixed position thinking prevents, gives people the prophylactic sense that they're going to be okay no matter what, to include these bunkers. And the problem is that then they don't get to work on the really complicated, difficult shit to make sure that we don't get to that state,
mm,
that it doesn't go that fucking far.
the best gunfight's the one you avoid.
Correct, right? It's giving you that false sense of security. So and you spend a lot of money. Who cares? It's you can put $1 billion for a lot of these guys. You can build $1 billion freaking bunker, whatever, right? I borrowed that money against my assets for three
Yeah.
percent,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
it's throwaway money. So the concern that I have with it, unlike the old princes, right, back to the conversation we had before, is the princes had to live in that community. That castle had to be provisioned by local peoples. Um, they had to be supported by local peoples. They had to bring the local peoples into the castle and survive a siege together. That it forced the prince and his advisors and guides and military, martial leaders, etc., to think through problems better, work through things better, build alliances better, recognize social movements and things that were destabilizing and squash that shit or derail that shit before it got out of hand. If not, you starve to death together with disease in your fucking castle. If the castle stood,
Yeah.
which probably didn't because you didn't maintain it, because you had a false sense of security.
I guess. Yeah. It's I'm in this bunker, therefore I'm fine. And it's like, yeah, and that's admittedly kind of my own problem. I always say like Fortress America, and it's like, yeah, sure, you can have that. You do have to tinker internationally because everyone else is tinkering internationally. It's just what it
Yes.
is. I,
Yes.
I don't want to own a gun. Well, someone else is okay with owning a gun.
Yeah.
So therefore you have to own a gun.
And they're okay with killing you.
Exactly. So
And
it's
you
it's
have to
it's
accept
it's
that as
the
a reality.
it is, and it's
Yeah.
accepting it doesn't mean doesn't mean you like it. It's just accepting it. It's like, hey, this whole universe, it's, hey, I always say, yeah, I have a lot of qualms with it. The whole, life is suffering. I'm not
Yeah.
a huge fan of thermodynamics, and like in general, yeah, there's a lot of problems. But like you have to get it that like the world, you can only be as good as the world allows you to be, right? So you can have that, you can negotiate from that place of security, from that castle, and go, we have Fortress America. Therefore, we can fucking take our balls out and go, hey, Houthis, you're not doing this. You're not doing that. But you do have to tinker because those more complex things, you,
Well, how many castles have been taken down because somebody inside the castle opened the gate,
well, there you go. There you go. And then we're fine.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Was it Gates of Toledo? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
I mean, you could have the most impregnable
Benedict
castle
Arnold
that
who
you
doesn't
want, but
fucking.
if somebody opens a fucking gate from the inside
What
or
about
burns
what about the
or burn,
Rosenbergs? What about the Rosenbergs? What about Klaus Fuchs? Klaus Fuchs was fucking Britain, our fucking Lend-Lease buddies. He helped the Rosenberg take fucking information from the Manhattan Project and give it to Stalin before it was even finished. Yeah, man. All that security doesn't mean shit if the guy in
yes,
your living room shoots you in the back of the head.
yes. So this, back to the first question, right? Back to the Exodus from Egypt, back to, you know, how did this small collection of islands out off the northwest part of Europe that doesn't have a whole lot of resources, how did it rule the largest, Earth surface empire, not land empire? The Mongols by far did
Yeah.
that. But how did it, for a couple centuries, right? Like Britain, I don't remember the exact number, but the Redcoats, actual formal British military troops, I don't think there's ever more than like 4,000 of them in India, the most populous country in the world at the time. Now, the British East Indies Company had its own troops, and it had 40,000 or something at one point, right? But how did it do that? It it had extraordinarily good intelligence. It had an extraordinarily booming economy and financial system. And it's very good. The Tudors, good old crazy Henry VIII, and then Mary, Bloody Mary, and then Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, right? They were insane. How do insane people maintain power? Fear and chaos
Mhm.
and bribery and buying people off and appetites and all the things, right? That's how they maintain power. All right. Well, what would a people built on that system be willing to do? Taken in concept, right? Thousands of years ago, when the Jews exiting Egypt, wandered for 2 generations in the desert. Let's say you fought, and I don't know this. I'm just thinking out loud right now. Let's say that the business of embedding the mafia state in the world wasn't completed with World War One, because it turned out World War One, as brutal as it was too localized. You got to Europe, you embedded this mob state into Europe, or what would become the mob state, right? But you needed to go further because you needed natural resources. You needed all the inputs to keep coming in from the outer edges. So you weren't done. You needed to have an even bigger fight, an even bloodier fight, an even more global fight. But the people were exhausted from World War One. And as to something you had said previously, a lot of the men have been killed. The fighters, the patriots, the good men who were rallying to the call. And by the way, women too, and they were nurses and moving logistics and things too. So you got good women that were answering the call too, right? But mostly men died in great numbers. You got another major fight coming because you didn't finish the work in World War One. That just set the conditions to finish the work. I don't know. I might cause a decade-long economic depression.
Hmm.
Get people conditioned to fight.
Yeah.
Hardship will do that. And then you give them a rally. So anybody who's been to SEER school, right?
Survival.
Survival, evasion, resistance, escape school, right?
Mhm.
SEER C has been through this.
Hmm.
You starve, right? You're out moving and moving and moving. You're not getting rest. You starve. You get rolled up. You get brought into the camp. You get uh, darvoed. You get slapped around. You get beat up. You get even more hungry and cold and embarrassed and shamed and all of that.
Hmm.
And then they give you a rallying cry at the end, right? For the ones who made it, they give you a rallying cry, and it's impossible. I'm telling you from personal experience, it's impossible to not get emotionally, psychologically caught up and let's go, right? It's so brilliantly done. Sears School is, I think everybody should be, anybody who wants to be anybody needs to go through a version of Sears C. It's one of the best schools ever done, right? But they can do that at population scale.
Absolutely.
Literally, a population scale, create a global economic crisis.
I think that's also what shit like 9/11 is. I think they took MK Ultra and were like, what if we did it to a billion people on TV? If it worked, if trauma-based conditioning works, yeah, fucking have a
So
bunch of
here's my
civilians jumping
sense.
out of skyscrapers on fire.
My sense is this, and I can't, right? This is just me talking to Tommy, right? And the world through Tommy,
Yeah.
okay? But I don't think so. Operation Maxwell Epstein started way before 2000, way before. So it's actually started with Robert
Yeah,
Maxwell,
her dad
the
was
interface, and
dad was Mossad, right? He died mysteriously on that yacht or off the yacht.
yeah. So much like World War One, I wonder if the GWAT was just the setup
Hmm. Hey,
for
on that
World.
hey, on that note, I got pissed so fucking bad.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so G Watt set up for, sorry, keep going.
for
You
World War
tell
Three.
I drank like one of these during the podcast.
Yeah, totally get it, man. I totally get it. Um, yeah, I wonder if it was just the setup, and now we go into economic hardship, right? Get people conditioned, get people back a sense of community and home, probably do some, if the pattern holds, then we go into some pretty serious ethnocentric racist shit for,
Balkanization,
yeah,
is that the
for
right term?
what's that?
Balkanization, is that the right term?
Balkanization, ethnocentrism, right? Because you gotta blame all this stuff on somebody,
Mm-hmm.
somebody's, right? You get everybody into a state of chaos and disorder and violence and fear. And then a clarion call goes up, a rallying cry goes up around identity, your old ethnic identity, and they take the world to war. I mean, China's saying, China, this actually did happen. Xi told the Chinese military, prepare for war.
Yeah, that was like,
He's not an idiot. He's
yeah.
not ignorant. China has incredible human intelligence capabilities and technical intelligence capabilities. He's not saying that. Um, One, he's not saying it because he's threatening Taiwan. Couldn't give a fuck about Taiwan. Taiwan is done. You know why? Because its birth rates are down about one. In 50 years, there is no Taiwan.
It's like the US. It's like we probably didn't need, and I don't mean to be some like fucking revisionist. I don't give a shit. I think we should have dropped 100 nukes on Japan. But because my grandfather was going to be part of the mainland invasion, so that's probably why I exist. But
Mm.
regardless, we were doing just fine with LeMay and the incendiary bombings. We dropped that to show Russia, hey, look at this thing. That's why it's in the same way.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a threat.
G ain't
It
talking
was
to Taiwan. He's talking to us.
correct. Couldn't again. I'm not joking. When I was in China, my boss was Taiwanese. It's the guy who built the investment banking firm that I worked for, right? That I helped build the private equity fund for. And I worked with him every day. He's Taiwanese. And I had this conversation with him, and he's like, "You're an idiot." He's like, I mean, he said it politely and nicely, but he's like, "You're an idiot." He's like, "You need to understand, there is no China-Taiwan division. Within a couple generations, there is no Taiwan. We stopped having kids. And you're not going to turn that around. And even if they were to turn around and get 2.1, 2.4, they'd have to get above that now. It'd have to be at something like 3 to turn around the population decline. It would take 100 years at natural birth rates, et cetera, 100 years to turn around the population decline. He's like, we're done. That's why this is back in the early 2000s. That's why they were heavily invested in China. He was the youngest son of the second wealthiest family in Taiwan. Where do you think China got a lot of its, investment capital for manufacturing, particularly in the southern, in Guangzhou and all of those areas? Taiwan, right? The Taiwanese wealthy families were already migrating for all intents and purposes, their wealth back to mainland China. So what are you left with wealth-wise in Taiwan? And there's still wealth there, but you don't do a lot of manufacturing, which was what Taiwan's base was. Taiwan's done. Taiwan's a red herring for us. It's like people just freaking take a step back, look at economics, look at demographics. Taiwan's done. So you're absolutely right. She isn't telling, Taiwan, they couldn't care less. It's telling us, you have been threatening us for 20 years with war. You're openly calling for war against China, and they are. Even Trump, unfortunately. What would I do if I was Xi? Sit there and cower in my fucking, my bed at night? Or would I, with the second most populous single great, they can out-manufacture the rest of the world combined. All they got to do is look behind them. Their back is covered by Russia and all of those natural resources right up there in Siberia. which we're not going to be able to prevent the flows of into China because, what did Napoleon said never start a land war in Asia or never fight a land war in Asia. He also said something, when the sleeping dragon awakes, the world will tremble. And he meant China. This is in the 1800s, early 1800s, late 1700s.
And I think we're seeing with Ukraine right now, and I mean, sure, the drones are high tech in relation to past wars, but it seems like, when these giant wars break out, it's less of the hyper fancy F-35 and it's more of how many artillery shells can you make, right? It's how many guns can you stamp out easily? You don't want some boutique, hey, this is my thermal silenced, titanium. No, how many Tommy guns, how many M1 Grands, how many bars can you stamp out and hand to a person? And it's
How
just
many
numbers.
heavily fortified concrete defenses can you build and
How
how
many,
quickly can you roll them out? Because we just spent a whole century, more than a century from World War One, going from all out brutal
yeah.
trench warfare, designed and developed all of these technologies for maneuver warfare. We have the first peer-on-peer fight in Europe in 100 years or in 60 years, 80 years. And what does it immediately revert to? Trench warfare
Hmm.
with
Yeah,
some fancy gadgets and doodads and,
sure. I did see a picture that showed everything. It was a picture from a drone, which is all right, it's from a drone of a holographic scope, like a holosun, on a water-cooled Vickers in a trench.
yes,
And it was like that picture alone was like
yes,
it's high tech. It's high tech in that sure the drones didn't exist. But as far as drones go, these aren't billion-dollar global hawks or predators. These are
no,
little zzz, put a
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
frag
yeah, yeah,
grenade on it.
yeah,
It changes everything. What did they say in World War II? The one German tank was so well made it could take out four Americans. How did America win? Oh, we just had five.
yeah,
Takes four to
yeah,
win. We'll make five.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
so China rightfully so, unless we preemptively used fucking orbital nukes and on the off chance lottery winning, and by that I mean impossible chance they don't nuke us back, you
They
could
don't
get,
have to. Russia will.
of course. So the thing is
Because
that is not even an
mutually
option.
assured destruction, one nuke is used. Like people say tactical nuke, there's no
No, there's no
such thing
tactical.
as a tactical nuke.
Yeah,
One nuke goes off anywhere in the world.
it's all automated too. All the
Everyone, that's
from the
exactly right.
70s. What
Now,
was the
here's the
US
crazy
systems?
thing.
Hold on, what
The
was the
only
US satellite?
system,
Sorry,
yeah,
I was
sorry,
gonna
sorry,
say
sorry.
the U.S. satellite systems in the 70s. I think it was Vela and Hotel. Yeah, we had these things that were just you targeted rocket plumes and thermal bursts, and that automatically would like
Correct.
put us on DEFCON 1. And then Russia have the dead hand. There's no yeah, there's tactical nukes in that. We'll do tactical nukes for about 4 minutes, and then it will
Yeah.
turn into 9 megaton
We'll re
strategic.
we'll re-lava the surface of the earth.
Yeah, the tactical phase. There will be tactical nukes
Yes.
for about
Yeah.
90 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I suspect what they were trying to do with COVID is see how well genetically
Weapons.
modified disease would work, and it didn't
Hmm.
work so well because
Yeah.
it turns out the genes don't actually. All of this effort and work we put into genetics and genetic medicine and all of this is turning out to not be very successful. And the reason is it turns out genes only print for proteins.
Yeah.
They're blueprints for proteins. They're not command instruction sets for cellular process operations. If you look at the work of Dr. Noble, um, and I have a great book here somewhere, give me a second,
You're good.
right? Understanding Living Systems. So let's see if get
Yeah.
the camera
That's
right.
it. Yeah. Raven
Right.
Dennis Noble.
Great book. Brilliant gentleman, very old now, and everybody should give him a look. Um, Genes only print for blueprints, or they're blueprints for proteins. The instruction sets, though, are not in the genes. The instruction sets are in the boundary conditions of the complex mechanisms and machinery and structures of the cell. So
The Sword and the Shield, yeah, Sword and the Kurt Bloma, then Doctor Sharp, yeah, the Sword and the Shield. The original idea going back to the 40s was, yeah, what if you could just make an illness target one group? And it seems like
it doesn't work.
it doesn't work. Yeah,
It
so
doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because you can target the genetics, but the cell is so sophisticated, so vastly more sophisticated
it's
and
so adaptive.
complex.
It's yeah,
It'll repair that. It'll freaking fix it.
yeah, it'll
And
in real time. It'll yeah,
it especially does it if you allow herd mental or herd immunity. That's
immunity.
why they locked people down because then it
Yeah,
can isolate. But
uh,
we share immune systems with everybody around us.
yeah, the horizontal gene transfer,
Right.
epigenetic.
Well, it's not just the gene trend, it's the bioelectrics. And this is the work of Dr. Levin and Nick Lane and some others. It's actually the bioelectrics that are guiding things, so the charge on the cell walls, the charge on the cytoplasms, all this kind of stuff. And then there's the work of Sir Roger Penrose and Dr. Hameroff with microtubulin and how microtubulin is quantum signaling, tuning, and processing, as the
That's what happens in the cell.
whatever is moving along the microtubulin to go get instructions from the genes to create a protein, it's picking up quantum instructions all the way there and back and modifying the code, the blueprint that it received from the genes. And let's not leave out epigenetics because this is
Mhm.
what epigenetics is, the ability to adapt the blueprint to create a protein.
Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised that that the life that's been around for 2 billion years on Earth has a couple more tricks up its sleeve.
Four and a
Oh,
half.
COVID. Oh, what did it do? Yeah,
Yeah.
our genes are like, are you fucking retarded? That's all you
It's
got?
not the genes, it's the
Well, what
cells.
I mean, it
Cells.
just
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
biology
yeah.
in general. It's just like this is
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
got.
yeah, yeah.
You got
Yeah, the cells
COVID.
are like,
Fucking eat a
we've seen
dick.
this.
Yeah,
Oh, we've seen worse than this.
yeah. Thermonuclear hellfire is about the only thing that can.
Yes.
I keep
Well,
interrupting you and betraying it. Oh, no,
cockroaches will survive that. So,
yeah. But so I sorry because I'm getting excited and I keep interrupting you. But like so big picture. So Maxwell Epstein pre-2000, GWAT, it's to prep us for World War. China's talking to us. So kind of big picture because I know I keep
yeah, yeah.
derailing us.
No, I'm
Big
doing
picture.
it.
So Maxwell Epstein pre-2000, GWAT to prep us for World War III, COVID, maybe it was a misfire. And so right now we're kind of, if the COVID thing doesn't work, we'll just lean back on the good old fashioned kinetic meat grinder in Ukraine, meat grinder
Yeah,
in Gaza, Israel, meat grinder, fucking whatever,
yeah,
a land war
yes.
in China.
Okay, so wonderful. So, and thank you for bringing it all back. So let's
Yeah,
go
no,
back even
yeah.
further, though. If you take as a premise in Judeo-Christian belief systems and cultures and societies, particularly amongst the real elites, that you will wander your people in the desert for 2 generations in hardship to prepare them for a fight, a multi-generational fight. Carry that forward to the British and how the British have time and time again demonstrated the same willingness, right? If we were watching, if in the 1960s and 1970s, we realized that there was a very real chance that we might lose the empire, might finally lose the empire. What would we be willing to do? Particularly, okay, so that is a top first premise, right? Because by the way, Robert Maxwell was there in that time frame, beginning
Mhm.
his, and what was Trump's AG? Burr, is that was his name?
Oh,
Barr,
Barr.
Barr, Bill Barr is that part of that whole group,
He's all in that
right?
fucking, he's got all the
So
ties into that.
what would you be willing to do? And then, oh, your staunchest resistance enemy, the Soviets, they capitulate. Their system, they capitulate. They shut the system down. They're not there as a they're not there to resist your whatever it is that you're putting in motion in action to save the empire, which is bankrupt. Basically, the only reason the empire is collapsing is because of demographics, and then that demographic problem is leading to bankruptcy. And the empire has been bankrupt several times. And every time it comes out of bankruptcy with a massive global conflagration. where it steals more of the world, right? Kind of like a sun that's dying, right? It'll expand out in these paroxysms of
The red
fire
giant, and then and then
before it finally collapses, or blows off.
yeah,
Um, and then in the 90s, this all takes off because the Soviets aren't there anymore to counter whatever, the operation is. So you accelerate through the 90s, and by the 2000s, you're going all out because you're still bankrupt. You still got massive demographic problems, which are not going to turn around. In fact, they're getting worse because your own elites are terrified of their people, so they're figuring out ways to keep them in all kinds of complex ways to keep them from
and
having children.
yeah, and just make it easy. This is just financially unviable.
Correct.
They can't
Correct.
you can't do
Socially
that.
and financially unviable, and then ruin your women with, um,
Feminism and
liberal sexuality, shall we say,
nose
right?
piercings and hair dye.
And emasculate your males.
I'm gonna become
Um,
a dictator and just ban women from dyeing their hair. I think that alone will
yeah.
fucking. I think that there'll be a color palette. It'd be like from like black to blonde. You can do none of this fucking none of the rainbow shit. But yeah, no, I mean to accelerate it, and then Jeff Nyquist, I've had him on here a million times. He's got a very curious idea about the Soviets basically fall, faked their own fall to
Yeah.
get. No, no, I'm not saying it's true, but just
Yeah. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
idea, it's just
I've
like
heard it. Yeah, I've
how else
heard
would you
it.
get the U.S. to stop fucking with you? Oh my God, we're dead. Play dead. Sorry, keep going though. We're
Well,
civil
no, no, no.
military
So,
pushing.
one has, and by the way, I think this came up in your conversation again with Dave and Tom and the other gentleman,
Jim Kunstler.
Jim. Yeah, Jim, the other day, right? Um, was the Soviet Union what we thought it was?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, if we see everything, it's like that
How much
meme.
did so the Holodomor that happened in the Ukraine, where did
Yeah,
they sell that grain to?
yeah,
To
yeah,
us.
yeah. I was thinking of that meme. Once you realize just how fake the news, and it really is. I mean, it started as a meme under Trump, and now you see in real time the day they shoot Trump. He fell because of loud noises, and like 3 minutes later, you see a 4K video of a guy on a roof with a gun. Like the time
Yes,
between
yes.
bullshit and reality is like in minutes now. Once you realize that that's all fake, why in God's name?
Would
Why
you
in
believe?
God's name would you take a history book where there's no other cameras? There is no Instagram. Everyone's not walking around with a fucking 4K camera. Why would that be true? If they lie to your fucking face the day Trump is shot, it,
Yeah, within minutes.
within
Within
minutes, there's
minutes.
video going out of a sheriff going, "Yeah, I saw a guy on the roof with a gun." And then at the same time, you have the Atlantic being like, "Donald Trump fell amongst loud noises." If they'll do that to your
Yeah. Oh,
fucking
and it went out
face,
through all the news agencies were
oh yeah,
saying the exact same thing.
they got that memo of like let's downplay. So if you see that in real time to your fucking face, what do you think they'll do when the only, report of a war is a single telegraph wire from fucking Yalta to DC in 1945?
So question becomes one of this. Who funded Trotsky, Stalin, well, Trotsky and Lenin? Who funded them?
Was it the US or was
It
it?
was Britain and the Germans.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, they were dropped off with money. They weren't like they were given
Lots of
passports.
money
They
and
weren't just
armed and
yeah.
supported.
They were
So
like
what if the whole Soviet thing was the raping of Russia and the Russians? Russians lost something like 70 million people between
Russians
World
lost
War
more than
II and
anything under the Soviet Union.
right? Totally enslaved the people way beyond anything they were as serfs. And oh, by the way, Tsar Nicholas II and some of his the nobles have been doing serf reforms for a decade, right? Why did we create World War One? To defeat the Germans? Whatever. It was to defeat Russia. And then we sent Trotsky and Lenin in there with a bunch of money and weapons. And then when the royal family asked Britain, his first cousin, for help, King George said no. So what if the whole Soviet, and I don't know, I'm just listening to some folks and thinking through this, but what if the end of the Soviet Union was not the failure and collapse of the Soviet Union. It was the Russians finally getting their shit back under control.
What if it was the death of the parasite on them?
Correct. Because how did the Soviet system survive? By selling cheap resources to the rest of the fucking world
Hmm.
using slave labor.
Doesn't seem very doesn't seem very conducive to a national interest. It seems
No,
like what's the
no,
line from Goodfellas, or maybe it wasn't Goodfellas, maybe it was A Bronx Tale. But they go in, you go into a liquor store, you take all the bottles at gunpoint, you go sell $500 bottles of whiskey for $20. It's 100% profit. What the fuck do you care?
correct, correct.
It's slave
Right.
labor.
If you
Hey,
gotta
if
if you
you
gotta
work at
kill
school,
some folks while you're doing it, whatever.
fuck it, yeah, what do I get? Yeah, it's
So I don't know, right? But
of course, yeah.
back to the first conversation we have, right? Or maybe the second one. Everything in the Praetorian system is dependent upon collateral, quality collateral, and you can derivatize collateral so far. But at some point, you have to re-collateralize the system. And to re-collateralize the system, you need raw materials. Straight up. Europe doesn't have any. China doesn't have any. The US has got a lot. North America's got a ton. But we keep that as strategic reserves, right? We underdevelop on purpose because that's a strategic,
It,
long-term
it
strategic,
it is. I mean,
right? You drain to dominate, right? Long-term thinking,
use fake, yeah,
centuries-long thinking,
no. You use fake money to get everyone else's oil, and then when war breaks out, then you go, all right, we're gonna start drilling in Alaska.
right?
You don't want to be begging for food. You
Well, and we make your getting resources, the physical, iron, copper, tin, bauxite, food, etc. We make that harder for you to get because we've been paying you with cheap, free, artificial money for a
not real.
century to
It's not real.
drain all that shit.
Yeah.
We're the only ones left, right? Us and Russia are the only ones. Well, I mean, Africa, but we've made sure Africa doesn't come together
Destroy that. Yeah, no,
as a unit, right?
it is the long term, the centuries it absolutely is. You deplete the rest of the world and then you use your own shit. I buy all of your water, and then when it's finally
Right.
all over, then you see me crack
Yeah.
this. You're like, Tommy, where the fuck did you get that? I'm like, oh, I've had it the whole time.
Yeah.
And now you have a bunch of dollar bills, and you're like, what do I do with this? I'm like, I don't know. Fucking figure it out, dude.
Yeah, go ahead and eat those, burn
Yeah.
those. Yeah,
Yeah. So
run your
no,
factories on.
it is
Yeah,
the but yeah, so the real collateral then is it's Russia,
you need the Yeah,
United States.
Russia's. The honest truth is, Europe at least has to take Russia because Europe cannot re-collateral. There is no collateral Britain or Europe can do anymore that re-collateralizes their system. And now that we in the US have moved to SOFR away from LIBOR, they can't manipulate our financial system and banking system and interest rates, et cetera, our debt to keep re-collateralizing their system, right? The United States can afford to ruin yields on its bonds. Causes hardship at home, but we can compensate, we can cover for that, et cetera. But we can afford to ruin the collateral, not completely ruin, but to very much devalue American assets, state assets, capital assets, collateral assets, so that Europe can no longer use those assets to re-collateralize its financial system and then thereby use the wealth from that to manipulate the American system and the financial system and the world and drive us. Yeah, and by the way, I heard a Russian professor yesterday. I can't remember his name. He was on with Glenn Deason and Alexander Mercouris, right? And he said it. He said Europe, the Europeans are the enemy. They're the only ones that have taken the world to war twice in a century and slaughtered millions and caused the deaths of tens of millions of Russians. I mean, we have to look over a century who's died in the greatest numbers in the world in percentage, right? The Russians. And who did that? It wasn't the Russians. They didn't start either one of those wars. So what is what is a people? This isn't about the Jews. This is about Judeo-Christian peoples. What will a people do? What will an empire do when it's facing its end? What would it be willing to do if it is built upon the principle that it will kill off half of its own people to harden up the other half for a prolonged fight?
They'll do anything, and it's not even. Yeah, sure. I mean, in the sense that we should all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, it's wrong. But I mean, it's like, it's shooting down the hijacked plane. Shoot down the hijacked plane, 300 people on board die. Don't shoot down the hijacked plane. It plows into the World Trade Center. 300 people on board die. Everyone in the building dies. If you're at a point where you know for sure that it's hijacked and there is no way out where you get them to land it, you do have to make that decision.
Well, let's go another step, right? Prevent the planes from hitting the World Trade Center,
Well,
prevent a global war from happening.
sure, but in terms of
But
what
you
would you
need the
do?
global war to condition your people
Yeah,
for a bigger conflict that you have to have in order for your economy and system to be recollateralized and function.
sure, but I'm looking at in terms of like what would you do to your own people? So that would mean just in a microcosm, it means that yeah, sure, you would have a fucking F-22 shoot a Sidewinder missile at a Delta flight. Now in a vacuum, if you just look at that, you go, that's awful. But if you zoom out and you go, this is what's going to happen. It's not that the pilot passed out and a passenger has to land it. It's that a nefarious actor is taking it over and they're a fucking radical Muslim and they want to plow it into the ground no matter what.
Yeah.
You would then have to go, well, just in that microcosm to save these people, these other people are dead. It sucks, but they are. So to scale that up, you'd go, well, then what would you do? You'd do anything,
Yes. Yes.
which is fucked. But at the same time, the universe is fucked. Like back to the whole, like either yeah, I have a lot of problems, life is suffering, and fucking yeah. At the same time, but like it's not a there is no option where we go, let's just hold hands. Like no, that's not the case. So, what would you would do anything, and it's a you know sucks. It's what it is sucks. The end.
So here's another question following from there, right? Um, let's say that they can't get their world war, right? But you have to recollateralize your system. You have to. Let's say that they can't get the world war, and I'm going to be quite honest with you. I don't know that we can right now. I don't know that we're going to get the world war no matter what we do. We are not even remotely in the position of strength that we were even 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Not even remotely, and not even close to where we were uh, in the 1910s and the 1940s, right? Not even remotely close. So what happens if we can't get our world war? We can't take the hard collateral assets of natural resources of other parts of the world while excusing trillions of dollars, tens or hundreds of trillions of dollars in current debt, maybe quadrillions, reset the system, recollateralize the system. What happens if we can't do that? What would the regime be willing to do to its own people?
You'd falsify it. You'd initiate the war. Can't get China to act. Fuck
Well,
it.
let's okay. Well, they're already doing that, right? They're already doing that. Let's say that those provocations don't work, and you are isolated now from the rest of the world where you're not going to be able to do that. They're not going to let you do it.
They're not going to take the bait. So what you
They're not
do?
going to, they'll take the provocations. They'll take to what you're saying, right? They'll take the
So,
plane being
well,
shot down. Right?
so what you'll do though is then you'll go, okay, we're no longer gonna. China's not taking any provocations. Okay, well now we're removing them from the equation. We're gonna nuke Disneyland and go. China did it, and now we're going into China.
Problem is back to what you were saying earlier about Trump and the cameras and all. They're at a place right now where they're not going to get away with that kind of a false flag because there's enough of their own citizens to be like, and more in particular, after the GWAT and everything that's happened since, the warrior class is going to be like, yeah, fuck you.
You know, it is.
We're not falling for that shit again.
There's some hilarious karma in that you've spent 20 years in real combat building anti-insurgents.
So what did Dostoevsky said, right? It's something like, the great shame is you destroyed yourself for nothing.
Yeah, they had the greatest
You
betrayal.
sold and destroyed yourself for nothing.
You betrayed yourself for nothing.
Yeah, betrayed yourself. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Очень хорошо. Uh, this is where my thoughts and mind are, right? Is we have to understand that China, Russia, and other countries went through absolute hell in the last century. Sheer unmitigating hell. Wars, communism, right? Just sheer unmitigating hell, hundreds of millions of their own people dead. That is seared so deep in the collective memories of those people, they will never do that again. Not in the time that anybody is still alive, not in the time their children, their right? And they will not allow us to do that to them again because we did it. So they will take the provocations, no matter how bad they are. They will, and their intelligence is extraordinarily capable. They will show. This is why we do the whole Russian misinformation, disinformation. That's not about, they're not upset with it or worried about the American people. They're worried about the intelligence apparatuses and capabilities of Iran, China, and Russia showing the American people data of what we're doing around the world and what we've done. And the truth, back to something else that we said in this conversation, to show us the truth of situations that we thought were something else because of the way the narrative was crafted. That's what our regime's terrified of. It's terrified of our quote unquote enemies showing the American people the truth. So what do you got to do? You have to they're all liars and discredit, right? The Darvo, right? The gaslighting, the admission through projection shit. So my concern is not World War III. Now I could be wrong, and maybe we could do something absolutely atrocious where there's no choice, right? Um, in which case we will lose. A lot of people will die, billions of people will die, and we will lose. What my actual concern is, though, is that a regime that has demonstrated for thousands of years that it's willing to do whatever to sustain itself and prepare itself for a prolonged, many generational fight, right? We call it the forever war now, or in the book and the concept I wrote, the eternal war. If you can't unleash that on other people, historically, you unleash it on your own people. And that's my concern. My concern, like I heard the conversation again with Jim and Dave and Tom, and I've heard other people. And yes, there's a lot of logic and all of those things are happening, but down underneath, there's something far more fundamental going on. Far more fundamental. Something that the eternal war, right, is far more basic, far more fundamental, and far more powerful. It's far more inescapable. We've never, as a species, been able to escape it. And so my genuine concern is that we're not going to get the war, the global war that we need to re-collateralize. It will unleash here at home in Europe and UK and the US. How that manifests and plays itself out, I don't know. There's other people been looking at it. Does it go hard? It's a number of things. It's probably like the Spanish Civil War, right? 36 to 39. Where everything that can be stolen is stolen to re-collateralize the system, bring the old system down, crash the old system, and re-collateralize it. It's basically what happened in Soviet Russia. It's what happened in Maoist China. That's what actually was happening. The old system was crashed, brought down. Everything that could be stolen was stolen from as many citizens as possible by just slave laboring them and killing them. And the systems were re-collateralized.
They think they're gonna unleash that on us if they can't get their world.
And I suspect the responsibles are trying everything in their, not suspect, like you can see it, they're trying everything possible to keep that from happening.
Yeah, it really is it's like suicide by cop. It's like the cops telling the guy, they're like, dude, don't reach for it. So the
Don't
cops
do
aren't,
it.
I mean, they're somewhat scared, but the cops are like, We'll shoot him, but we have to kill you, man. You're gonna die and your family's gonna miss you, and all these cops are gonna have PTSD,
And it's going to disrupt the
and
community.
it's
You know?
it you can almost feel it. It's like you have
Yeah.
like all the guys I know, all the like the SF guys, military guys, I'm like they're not fearful of this. Like they'll win. They're going to. I won. I'll be killed. But they're all the Dale, all the Delta Force. They're not. They don't give a fuck about what's going on. There's gonna be civil war. These guys will all win. They're looking at it more like, dude, don't do this. Like you're gonna die. Like
Yeah.
one or two of us might die. But the cops again, they're it's more of dude, come
Don't make
on,
me
like
do
put the
this.
gun down,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you'll be charged for having a gun and probably go do like a year and like you can turn it around, man. You can go fucking go get sober, you can go get a job. Like it doesn't have to be you're lit up on the side of a freeway at 2 a.m. And you can feel that. I get that feeling a lot is it feels like there's a lot of power and movers and shakers in the US and in the world. You can feel it. It's like man, maybe I'm projecting, but there seems to be almost like a strange don't
Don't make us do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
come on, man.
Yeah.
We can keep having a normal. There'll be problems, but
Well,
you
yeah.
hear Elon's voice. Sorry, but he'll be like,
No, 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 no. Yeah, I didn't mean to
preparing.
interrupt
Like
you.
we can go
I think,
forward. We can be more.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, we're all going to set back a bit. We're all going to be a bit poor. We got to struggle a bit. We got to work through this, but we'll get through it. Might take a couple generations, but we'll get through this.
We'll
And
go
the
on.
honest truth is, we could,
Absolutely, we can.
right? We can re-collateralize our system, but we
Like it's
need
like so,
time, and we got
as
to,
someone who lost a sibling to suicide. Like I always see
yeah,
people. I'm like, dude, it's you're at a low point. It does end. Like
yes.
it does end. You do get through. And what if it takes a year to get better? What if, well, now I look back, it's been 10 and a half years since my brother died. Even if it took 10 years, if he was still alive now, he'd be 6 months into, I got through it. Life goes on. He'd only be 37. I'd be like, you got 50 years left. Like, let's party. It's, and that's how it feels. Is like, dude, don't pull the gun out and point it at the cops. Don't point it at yourself. Like, so it's like, it might take us a couple generations, but like, don't fucking nuke them. Like, don't like it's a strained feeling of like you you really fucking I mean at its core, it's selfish and it's evil. And it's just like you're about to flip the whole
So
playing board for everybody.
we share the loss of a brother.
Yeah.
Mine was a kid brother. Um, Not for this show or any public, but we had a
Yeah,
pretty
sure.
rough time of it as kids. Um, he turned to drugs, violent crime when he was young. Was on probation for violent crime at the age of 14. Went to maximum security prison at the age of 17 and got shot in the head when he got out. And I got that Red Cross message. I was in the Army at the time. And that was 30 some odd years ago now, 40, almost 40 years ago now. Um, didn't make it to 21. So 11 to 21, a decade, right? He was in that dark place for a decade, couldn't find his way out.
You can get out.
Didn't take his own life, but I mean, he did
Yeah.
ultimately take his own life by the choices he was making and the things that he was doing. And um, so didn't matter what this gets to the point, right? It didn't matter what I said to him, how much I tried to help him, right? He was in this space, this thought cognitive neuroemotive space where he had to get taken out. He was causing harm and pain and suffering to other people. And he could not, no matter what we did, no matter what we tried to do, get out of that place. So, to the comment you're making, the death by cop, whether it's long and prolonged or whether it's sudden or it's death by at your own hand, the problem is that when you have enough of your population that's in this kind of um, violent, nihilistic place, history has shown you don't get them out of that.
No,
They don't come back. They don't, it's not like there's going to be some uh, massive rehabilitation program societally that we're going to do that we're going to walk these people back from death by cop
no,
at scale. Now you can try and recover the system, and it's like I say in the Eternal War, and we'll talk, we're going to talk that another time, but you can do things to lower the amount of resentment in a population by addressing real grievances, but they're
sure.
not the grievances that the politicians are looking at.
No,
They're not the grievances of, the red, blue, white, black, whatever. I don't take pills, but the pilled communities, right? Those aren't the actual fundamental underlying problems that have to be addressed to, the grievances that have to be addressed. There are very real grievances. And sustaining the system as it is makes it impossible to address those grievances because the system is the one creating the grievances and not necessarily by intention, just because of how it's developed. And there's probably some intentionality in there. So generally, regimes try to blow this outwards, right? War, external war, blow that outwards. Because if you can't blow it outwards, it will inevitably turn on itself where you have 30 to 50% of the population that is going to do death by cop. Or um, the other more scary one, the more concerning one is death by suicide, but having killed as many as you can before you kill yourself.
yeah, yeah, mass shooter and then turn on yourself,
Exactly.
which is, I mean, truly like the worst. It's the single worst way to go. It's the most
Yeah.
selfish, most harmful, most hurtful. Yeah,
Yeah.
shoot as many people as you can, then shoot yourself.
Yeah.
It's
Gladwell touched on this, right? Gladwell in one of his books, I can't remember which one, and I'm a fan of his assessments. I'm not so much a fan of his prescriptions, not his proscriptions, or the. I appreciate his assessment, kind of like Piketty, the French economist, right? But their solutions, I think, are off. But he talks about suicide as um, a mass formation, basically, as a psychological condition. There was some island, Solomon Islands or something else, and they kept having these mass suicides, and they found out it was because it was cool culture, right?
hmm,
Well, this kill as many as you can before you come out. That's not just the mass shooters. That's other people who are not shooters but are finding other ways to harm and kill and damage as many people as they can before they get found out and taken out, etc. So if you can't blow it outwards and you can't mass psychology fix it, how does that, can you wall it off? Well, we can't because we've got weaponized empathy now, so we can't call a thing, and we can't reinstitutionalize, 10% of our population. We're trying with the prisons. I mean, that's what we're doing with prisons, right? We're trying to do this backdoor, insane asylum
asylum,
shit.
yeah.
But we've got for-profit prisons, and you got people like the vice president of the United States running for president who is selling people
They
from the
pass
freaking
their
district
time
attorney's
for
office and the
free
AG's
labor.
office,
Yeah,
right? Selling slaves. I mean, she was literally selling
prison
slaves.
labor past their release.
Correct.
It's slavery.
Correct.
It's slavery with more steps, but it's slavery.
Well, and they don't even need the labor. It's the
Well, you
selling people into
prison
the
itself.
for-profit
So
prison system is a
you get
form of slavery.
yeah, you get that government. You're no different than defense contractor. You get that government contract. You got people in your cells. You're full up. You're a hotel. You're really a hotel, and you're at full vacant. You're at no vacancy.
So, again, back to Egypt. If you're if you What will Judeo-Christian power systems do to sustain themselves? I
Yeah.
don't think people really think about that enough, right? We look at this and we look at that and we think this and we think that and all these complex systems. It's like, no, 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 let's go down to the base. Our entire belief system is based off of Exodus from Egypt and wandering in the desert for 2 generations. Half the people died, the other half hardened the hell up, and then they went into a many generation conflict.
Mm.
And oh, by the way, we in Britain, the British Empire, we followed that exact same pattern for the last 500 years, 400-ish years.
Yeah, I don't know.
And oh, by the way, we got the mob state and the Praetorians at the core. And they're also, right, they also come from this concept and idea, which, by the way, is probably a species, animal kingdom concept and idea, anyways, because, how else do wolf packs to your, wolf packs and lion prides and hyenas, et cetera, don't sit around doing kumbaya,
No.
right?
Yeah, no, it seems to be the natural order.
So you know, I hear these very smart people talking, right? And they are very intelligent and they know a lot of things. They know a lot of systems. But I almost never hear them sit down and talk about base principles, right? First order principles and base reality. Human nature has never changed, and the nature of complex human societies and groupings has never changed. I don't think we're going to get a war. I don't think
Yeah.
we're going to get the world war. I think that these folks that have lost hundreds of millions of their own people in the last century don't want to lose 1 billion people this time
Mm.
of their own. And they'll take the provocations, they'll take the hits. We're not going to color revolution them by hitting them really hard and trying to make them look weak. They're not stupid, they're not weak. Their people have gone through horrible things in the last century that we have not even close. And so we have no idea what that memory, that seared trauma memory is in those people. If you go spend time in China talking to the common person and you get them, you got to be careful, right? And find, you go talk to Russians, even Russians that didn't even live in the Soviet, they know. They know it is seared into their collective memory, and it will be for centuries what happened last century.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any rebuttal. Well, not to not to end it on a dark note, but I say we resume when I've read Eternal War. Sound good?
Let's do it.
Fuck yeah.
I do want to one positive
Yeah,
note,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
go.
if we understand this, if we accept first order, get to first order principles, accept that we still live in base reality, we can limit the damage.
Yeah.
And that's a positive. That
Yeah,
itself
no,
is a victory. That's a positive thing. Let's limit the damage.
I do believe we can because ultimately, even though there's a lot of fucking evil people in the world, the vast majority of us are it's not an uncommon thought to be like, let's not have World War III. The overwhelming percentage of everyone alive is like, yeah, we're not gonna launch the nukes. Like most people want that. Like, there's a reason McDonald's says, billions and billions served. It doesn't take a lot of coercion to make people want to eat a Big Mac and French fries. It's really not like so. That's where my hope comes from. Is like I'm not unique in that I don't want there to be World War III. It's a pretty fucking like most people are like, yeah, I'd rather not get shot and shoot someone. There are some assholes, but that's where my hope comes from is, and it could manifest itself in ways we haven't seen in emergent complex phenomena and manifestations that we haven't seen before. But when but it's like it's like flooding. If the water will come through in ways you never thought was possible, it'll find every crack. Well, take the flood and instead of water, imagine people who don't want World War III. Think of 100 trillion water molecules of people who don't want World War III.
Yes.
It's gonna swirl and create droplets or steam or clouds or funnels or tidal waves or in ways that you don't totally understand. But if you understand the very basics of like water viscosity and fluid dynamics, you'll know that it's going to scale up in ways that you can't comprehend, that only a supercomputer can. In that same way, the fact that most people eh, just want a fucking normal life and to, have a fulfilling life and I don't know, laugh at memes, it will then emerge in ways that just because we can't imagine it doesn't mean that it won't show up. It will show up in unique ways. And like that's sort of meta scale, evolution and fitness is it will show up in a way that we don't know. But it will. So that's where my like positivity comes. It's not just blind optimism. I'm like, it'll find a way, just like fucking like goats or but it's the ibex that like climbs on the side of mountains. Like, yeah, no one set out going, let's put a goat on the side of that cliff. They found a fucking way, man. Like, no one set out and was like, let's design a fish that can live in the Mariana. But there's weird fucking translucent
Yeah.
bioluminescent, like there's algae that exists off the fucking heat from sulfur vents, like under like what the fuck? But like it will find if you know the general rule, which is life wants to survive and reproduce, it will find a way, the Jurassic Park thing. So that's again where my optimism comes. I don't know what it will look like. I have no idea what it will. Is it going to be Trump shaking Putin and Xi's hand? I don't know. Most simply, yes. But it will probably be something that we can't understand until it's in hindsight. And go, yeah, well, now it makes sense. All of human history, there was not planes. Now we look back at the Wright brothers, we're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. The lift and Bernoulli's principle. And 99.9999% of human history, there was like, yeah, you just can't no heavier than air flight. That's reserved for angels. And now it's like, I see 747s flying over this apartment during the podcast. I don't think anything of it. It's just normal. So it'll manifest in a way that once it does, will be so obvious. It will be the right flyer. It will be the airliner. You'll go, oh yeah, that okay, yeah, the propeller and the fucking fins. You go, yeah, I get that. But up until it happens, it's you're like, I don't know, maybe we do like a Zeppelin, maybe we do like a fucking weird hot air balloon. Like it'll be alien until it's here, and then it will be obvious, and we'll go, how do we never see that?
So brilliant assessment, particularly with the water, right? With water. So think of particle swarm optimization, PSO, where flocks of birds,
Mm-hmm.
massive flocks of insects, fish, they don't have all this complex circuitry. They got a couple small
There's no
little
cockpit.
rules,
There's no
right?
leader that
Maybe
goes turn left. It's
two, three little rules, if this, then that,
simultaneity.
and it all works, but it's complex. And you couldn't model it very much what
I
you're
still
saying.
don't fucking understand it.
Couldn't model it, but all you need to know. So
I was looking at, yeah, I was meditating yesterday in that chair back there. I was looking at it, and I just saw these geese fly in a V, and I'm like,
yeah,
such perfect formation that when we see planes do it, we go, it's the Blue Angels. You see
yeah,
geese do it, and you're like, I hope they don't shit on my car. But like,
yeah,
it, it's
yeah,
it's it's beautiful genius.
yeah.
And you go,
And
eh, what are
it's
those?
three
Quack,
simple
quack,
little
quack. You're like, well,
rules.
you fuck
Yeah, yeah.
off.
So I agree with you. So the overwhelming drive in every one of the hundreds of trillions of cells in most of our bodies, and even in the bodies that are suicidal and in a bad cognitive space, is survival, to survive, to live, to thrive. Like the water getting in through you can put the sandbags, you can do all that, but water's going to find a way in.
It'll be moisture on the
So
walls or dripping, or it'll rise up to the ground and crack
correct.
the
Yeah,
board.
yeah. Or you got sand underneath some part of your house that you didn't know about and it
What the
gets
fuck is
liquefied.
that in it?
Right. So So I totally agree. Life will life will find a way to not allow itself to get extinguished. At
It'll
the same time, the resentfuls and malevolence works in the same way.
they will,
And
yeah,
it is going to get in the house. And it is going to just like what's happened with the hurricane here in North Carolina and Kentucky and Georgia, et cetera. It's
sure.
going to get in. You're going to have destruction. You're not going to be able to prevent it. It's it is equally a powerful a force. And what you do, you minimize the damage and as quick and as easy as you can, you go in and repair and you help people, right? You focus on community and you help people as many people as you can to recover as quickly as they can and rebuild as quickly as they can. But you're not going to be able to prevent the storm and the path of the storm and the destruction.
But again, all of human history and even really all of biological life
All
is
life,
that if
we're
going
still
like,
here.
yes, yeah, the virus,
Yeah.
the evil person also wants self-preservation.
Yes.
Well, then it comes down to, well, who wants it more? Well, I would imagine we probably want it equally. The person that is going, I want to preserve myself, and if not myself, I'll do anything to preserve my wife and kids. That's probably on par with, I'm a fucking narcissistic serial killing psychopath. I'll do anything to preserve myself. So if they're both equally violent
But that's,
self-preservation
yeah,
forces,
but unfortunately they're not because we do have to accept that resentfuls, roughly 30% of the population, literally are genocidal by nature.
sure.
And they know they're going to get taken out. They want to get taken out, but they want to take out as they want to take as much as they can, harm as much as they can, and um, take out as many with them as they go out. It's an unfortunate thing, but
Yeah,
it's a
it is.
reality.
It is.
Yeah.
But I would argue that the fact that we're still here,
Yeah.
you and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you and
They
I are
failed.
talking
They
through,
failed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, historically, and it doesn't mean
Yeah.
like kumbaya. No, 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 no. Like there'll still be genocide and pain and
Yeah.
suffering beyond
Yeah.
unfathomable. But historically, from fucking riding around on horses and chopping people's heads off to
Yeah.
genocide and slaughter and fucking the Incas and the Aztecs and the colonial, like, but you and I here talking on a computer, I would say that it does find a way. It doesn't mean it's not a pretty win. It's a
People
fucking
die.
it's a fourth
Yeah.
quarter, you're on your eighth string quarterback and it's raining and everyone in the stadium's left, but it's still a technical win. And so for that, the very fact that we are here gives me hope and optimism that it will continue. I don't necessarily believe that I'll be there. I would like to, but I would imagine if it
Yeah.
goes hot, I will be
Yeah.
seen as a propagandist and probably killed with a
Yeah.
Hellfire missile, which, hey, whatever. It's kind of cool. But I overall, yeah, I would put my money on saying humanity survives, even if it's dark, even if it's fucking, rebuilding for 100 years. In the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. It's so
So the
I do
Russians are still here. The
everyone's
Chinese are still here.
fucking. There's people in Hiroshima. It hasn't even been a
Right?
century.
Hiroshima, Nagasaki. I'm going to give you another thing that I think should give us all hope.
Yeah.
COVID failed.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
It
supposed
failed
to
to, they
be
were telling
digital
you the death
tyranny.
numbers that they were expecting. They were telling us in the
Yeah.
projections, et cetera. That was them telling us what and it didn't get even close to that.
Yeah.
Not
So,
even remotely close.
yeah, I mean, fucking who Stanislav, who's the guy that refused the orders?
Lem, yeah, Stanislaus Lem, yeah.
Yeah. That's a Soviet guy who refused orders. I mean, everyone knows, so, not one step back.
Oh, the lieutenant, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but he still
yeah.
said pretty much, hey, we're going to take a step back. Why?
And
Because
by the way,
when
he's
faced with
revered in Russia and even in the Soviet system for having done that.
exactly. So that's my point.
Revered.
Is like we
Yeah.
have gone to the edge. We've gone Kennedy,
Yes.
Khrushchev, and they weren't even sure
Yes.
if they were talking to each other. So Bobby Kennedy was dropping like fucking courier letters to some dude on literally some guy.
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy talked about how he gave a letter to a courier. He goes, it was a young black man on a motorcycle who was checking out women. He went, this guy has no idea he's holding an envelope that's going to Khrushchev. He's like,
Yeah.
I think there's in some biography, I think he says, he goes, I was just really hoping he didn't see a cute chick because he might have not delivered the letter. But like you find a way.
Yes.
So
Life,
yeah,
life finds a way.
exactly. So
Life,
again, by virtue of the fact that you and I are here talking, statistically,
Yeah.
I would have to say we will probably find a way. Does that mean it'll be peaceful? Absolutely not. Does that mean I'll make it? Again, if it does go south, I imagine I'll be hit as a node and the people I know. I would imagine the Delta Force guys told me every time you absolutely have a dossier on you somewhere in DC. I'm sure I do. Fuck it, whatever. I'm good with God. He's good with me. It's all good. If I had to put my money on it, I would go, yeah, no, no, the humans will find a way. It'll be ugly, but they'll find a way. These fuckers are crazy.
Totally agree.
They used to chase down
Also,
saber-tooth tigers. Now they land rovers on Mars. These fuckers are if it again, if this is like a fucking college football team, I'm going. They're the Cinderella team. They're insane. They nuked each other, and then the guys they nuked, then they became allies. They're fucking. They make no sense. They're insane.
okay, so let's also not assume that the bad guys are going to be in control,
Yeah. Well, that's the only thing
right?
is
We do controlled burns of I'm from the West and the Pacific
yeah,
Northwest. We do controlled burns
yeah,
when we fucking do them so that we don't get right, but we do controlled burns, we do
yeah,
controlled demolition of things,
yeah.
right? We blow shit up, we kill things, we
You know what?
burn things down
We do it because
as
we
a
go.
way to
This is
clean the way. So
yeah.
let's not also, and I don't know, right? I don't know.
No, I'm with
But
you.
let's
Yeah, no,
also
don't.
not assume that the resentfuls who have been in control for about 60 years, right?
Doesn't mean they're still in control. No, I'm with you. No, exactly.
Right? Let's not assume that it's going to be just the bad guys driving the show. Now, we
That's
may
the
be
thing.
doing some crazy shit to respond to them, like you were saying with the water,
Yeah.
right? Little boy blue, right? Putting his fingers in the dike, trying to keep the dike
Yeah,
from
it's
collapsing.
that's the thing is you don't broadcast when you're losing power. You know what I mean? You're not going, hey, I mean again, I always use this analogy like the top rocket scientists were hiding away blueprints as early as 1943 because they went, we're
Yeah,
going to lose
yeah,
this war and I
yeah.
want a bargaining chip to either go to Russia or the United States. In
And I don't want to
1943,
lose the progress we've
but
made. I
that's
don't
what I
want to
mean.
lose the
But they
work and the
would
progress.
it's
Yeah,
not like they're doing this as Berlin's getting shelled. They did it
yeah,
2 years
yeah,
prior. They did it
yeah,
a year, but they did it 6 months before D-Day.
yeah,
They
yeah,
would go and bury these shit on their property.
yeah,
And that day, they would go and meet the Heil Hitler, and they'd go with the Thousand-Year Reich. So think about that. The most true blue believers in the top brass would go, Hitler, we're gonna fucking take over the universe. And
Well,
that
let's go
same
back.
day, boom, and the same day they would bury those blueprints. So my point is in hindsight, we go, we now we know that at the time, that was no one said that. It wasn't until it was Hitler's last order was burn everything. It
Yeah,
wasn't until he shot himself and the Soviets that they went, oh, and now we go, oh, they were falling apart for years before the end. So my point is like they're never going to broadcast. So for all we know, there are guys making deals, going, hey, here are documents about
yeah.
COVID.
Oh
They
yeah.
planned it. We don't see it right now. It looks
Oh
like
yeah.
a monolith. 80 years from now, they'll be like, yeah, so actually as early as 2018,
Oh yeah.
fucking Chuck Schumer was making deals with Trump. Like, we don't know that. We have no fucking idea. Sorry.
No, no, no. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, you're good.
That orange motherfucker didn't get into office by accident.
Yeah, you and I talked about that. He didn't get into 2016 because he just they forgot to press the cheat, but like, oh, we forgot to put in the cheat USB. He
Yeah.
got in there against their best efforts. Like, don't ever
Yes.
forget that.
Yes.
Yeah, and
The
it's
the WEF didn't take over because they were inept,
yeah, they didn't stumble into that exactly.
right? They didn't, they're not, their failure to build the global system and bring about this totalitarian system didn't fail because they're inept.
They
Didn't fail because
or
they're
because
not
they
in
ran
every fuck.
and
There was a
not
counter.
because they weren't ruthless enough where they went, okay, guys, that's too many deaths. No,
Correct. They're fucking Germans.
some force somewhere put an end to
Yeah,
it. They didn't just
correct.
go, well, we tried to roll out a fucking eugenics program with digital passports. Didn't work, guys. No,
Shucks.
someone stopped it. Someone fucking stopped it. Exactly.
Correct.
Like Elon
Very
didn't just
sophisticated, very complex. Yeah.
Elon didn't just buy Twitter.
No.
There's fucking shit. And again, I don't know what it is, but yeah, no, that's an important point. Is like, yeah, don't despair. We don't even know if they're still in control. For all we know, they lost control 4 years ago, and you know,
Right.
like, dude, you should be smiling. It's all
They
good.
killed two princes. They were never going to get away with that.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Even if it took 60 years, 70 years.
yeah,
They killed two princes
yeah.
and they were never going to get away with that.
You killed the Kennedys in Camelot. Like you can't.
Correct. Correct.
you can't get blood on Jackie. Jackie's a
Yeah.
saint. It's like so that is how I try to look at it. So I know a lot of people like roll their eyes because I'm optimistic, but like yeah, it's statistically I would say there's reason to be optimistic. Like
Yeah.
forget the whole feel good. Like no, if I just had to put money on it, like I guarantee you, there's a lot of people in Vegas who hate Donald Trump, but they know how to they don't let their money get angry. They go, hey, I hate him, but I'm putting $1 million on Orange Man. That's how you have to look at this. Is like you don't know, like it's historically it will work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Sometimes
an
it fails.
optimism. Yeah.
Sometimes it fails. Sometimes the balance of forces and fighting, all that
Oh
fails.
no,
But
no,
to your point,
and it can
life
spiral for
continues.
centuries. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but by virtue of the fact that you and I are here,
Yeah.
it finds a way.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it finds a way, and that's right. Yeah, I think there is.
It's because while there's the eternal war, there's also the infinite game. That's in the
Yeah,
book. That's the
yeah,
next
yeah.
conversation, right?
All right,
And
yeah,
that game is constantly innovating to prevent the war from burning all life to the ground.
yeah. So, with that positive note, let's wrap this up and
All right.
we'll resume with the Eternal War. So, guys, please go in the description. Please go subscribe to his YouTube. Please go subscribe to his Twitter. And, dude, thank you for your time. As always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Tommy.
All right, bro.
Pleasure as always.
Yes, sir.
Cheers.
Guys, thank you so much.